Welcome to the Daily Objective, a special edition. My name is Kirk, and I'm here with Luke Travers, and we're going to be discussing stories in paint. And this is actually Luke's upcoming book, one that he's been working on for quite a while. Not only the writing of it, but a whole lifetime of studying art. And, if you aren't aware, Luke and I have a show together as well called Surprised by Art, where we talk about art and poetry. Today, we're going to focus on painting and the stories in paintings and how this book came about, what the purpose of the book is. I've gotten some sneak peeks. I actually did a little publishing of one of his in my magazine. I mean, it's really good book, and it's something that we're all very excited about. Luke does salons, and I could go on and on about Luke and what he's doing, but we're going to bring him on.
Oh, keep going. I like hearing this.
Okay, so Luke is really good at soccer.
There you go.
He cuts a mean figure in a suit, and he loves sexy confidence with James Bond characters, one of his favorites. And yeah, we can keep going. I got some more, baby. We got this going. Okay, but let's talk about Luke. Let's bring him so people can hear his voice as well. And Luke, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Kirk. Very excited to be here. This is the first of what I hope to be a big media blitz throughout November, where I'm just promoting the heck out of this book. Just launched a Kickstarter this morning. And
I didn't know that. Congrats.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to be raising as much money as I can for this passion project of mine, which I think is something that will bring a lot of joy, a lot of meaning to a lot of people. And that's my goal.
So this book is going to be a paper book, right? It's going to be a physical book you can buy. Is it going to be like a coffee table book? I just want to know, because I like coffee table books.
Okay, I like coffee table books too, especially if they come with coffee.
Okay, so you're going to give us like a pound of your favorite kind of coffee?
My dad suggested that for each of the 50 artworks, you have like a coffee drink pairing with it. So if you have a nice, pristine, calm landscape, maybe some decaf green tea, or, if you have like an intensely dramatic scene, maybe like black coffee. I don't know. But it is going to be a coffee table art book. 11 by 11, so big square type of book, and that you can open up and have several people hovering over it at the same time. And also there's going to be like a digital component to it, where each of the 50 artworks have their own QR code that gives you access to like the audiobook version, plus zoomable image, plus other kinds of content to enhance your experience while you're there. So it's going to be like a combo print and digital experience on the coffee table.
So I'm very excited about this. By the way, I just wanted to say, I thought this was a comment, but apparently this is the name of somebody. Sammy is bored again, just donated. Thank you, Sammy is bored again. And Mary Aline, thank you for your super chat contributions. If you have any questions about painting, and we're going to actually explore a painting in a few minutes as well, please, super chat us, let us know any questions, and we will answer your question as soon as possible. Now, I just wanted to ask Luke about the situation with people who, like what this book is going to accomplish. So one, getting people to go to museums, to see great art, to do this, that's why, by the way, I'm most excited about it. Like, I know a lot of the artworks, or some of them that are in there, but I really want, I'm at a stage in my life where I'm capable of just kind of like hopping on a plane and just going somewhere. And I'm actually, one of the things I want to do are two things. I want to hop on planes to go to the best museums in America. And you're going to give me those, right?
I'm going to give you those. I sure am, Kirk. The 50 artworks that are part of this collection in this book are based on the 15 years of art museum tours. I've given scores of art museum tours all around the country, around the world, but at all the major art museums and the minor ones in the United States. And so from those tours, I've drawn the richest stories, the most insightful stories, the ones that resonated with my audiences, and bringing them home to you, to your coffee table. And hopefully that also excites you to want to go see them in person at these art museums in the United States. And so it's kind of like you're going to have the experience at home, but then hopefully when you go to the MFA in Boston, when you go to the Met in New York, when you go to the Legion of Honor in San Francisco, you're going to have something that you're going to be excited about seeing there, because there's nothing like seeing the artwork there in person in full size, and in being in kind of this this place where you're primed, where you can have a bit of a ritual when you're experiencing art. But I'm also hoping to help you have that bit of a ritual at home. Instead of turning on Netflix, have the coffee table art book, flip it open, come across an artwork, you say, oh, that looks intriguing. Or I have no idea why I'd like that. I'm curious about exploring that one, and helping you read the story in it and personally connect to it.
And it's a process that you've also mastered to help people who are unfamiliar with artwork and paintings and uncomfortable with it, right? Like so many people are.
I love discomfort.
Yeah, discomfortable. They don't feel good going into a museum because they don't know what to do. Sometimes, I've talked to people who want to go to museums, but they don't because it's like, I don't know where to go. And it looks weird to me. And, I see something that's like, that's kind of cool. And then I go home. Like, I don't get what I'm doing. So this book kind of has everything. And I know you have another book that came before it called Touching the Art that kind of is a good companion piece. So if you're anxious for this book, you can go get Touching the Art. What is it? touchingtheart.com. Is that?
That's right. That's touchingtheart.com. And Touching the Art is like a how-to book. So
it's a how-to book. Yeah.
It's a how-to book. It's here's the method that I use when I go to the art museum to get into the art, to immerse myself in the stories, to identify a theme, to personally connect to it, to have it resonate with me like my favorite novels and my favorite movies do. This book, Stories in Paint, is more like, here are 50 artworks for you to immerse yourself in. It's not a how-to book. The techniques are implied, but they're meant to be intuitive and self-explanatory and immersive. I would imagine it more like and it's going to sound strange, kind of like a board game a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of pulling out a board game, pull out the book, and there are going to be leading questions that get you into the artwork that are kind of fun. Like, imagine what the characters are saying. Give them a quote. Or what if you were in this place? What would you hear? And all these kinds of questions are meant to get you more into the story, to make it come more alive, and to make you care more about the characters, and therefore to come away feeling like, oh, wow, I just had a powerful art experience, story experience that I shared with people around me. So I'm kind of imagining this, Kirk, as something you could read on your own, but maybe more importantly, more valuably, something that you read with a date you have over, something you read with your grandkids, something you're there, break it open for a Sunday afternoon with friends who have come over and you're not quite sure what to do.
Yeah, so it's like a fun game that you can have so the board game analogy is great. So yeah, like I just had a board game night not too long ago, and we all played different board games. And you know what? Because we had to have there were 8 people, and some of them were only 4. There was a lull when one team, which was the more advanced folk, they were playing some fancy game. I was like, I don't know what they're doing. They're bringing out real lightsabers and swords and fighting each other in the garden. Not really, I'm kidding. But like, it was very much more advanced. We were playing like this, advanced Monopoly was what the other team, right? But so there was a lull where we were done and they weren't. We were waiting to play a game with all 8 of us. And it would have been cool if we would have had this and we could have plopped that down and looked at a painting, and you give questions, it's not an analysis. It's not like taking an art appreciation course. Yeah. What you're learning, because, I've done this with you so many times, is you're guiding someone through the process of experiencing for themselves the work of art and what's really going on. And like you said, I think the analogy of movie is not false. Like, it's very accurate in the sense that you're really thinking about what happened before this scene, what happened during it, what might happen next, to make a full picture, which, by the way, has a lot of value to your mind and building your imaginative faculty. I have to say, like, I was dating this girl years ago and my heart was broken because I don't remember what it was. I might have told you this story, but she was looking at this paintings of like the Louvre, and she was flipping through it like it was a Maxim magazine or something, or a Cosmo magazine. And she was just like flipping and like, it's pretty, right? And I was like, oh. Like, none of them attracted you enough to stop and look at the painting for a while, and nothing. And she just closed the book. And
well, Kirk, you just give me another reason to write this book. You give me another reason. It's to save your relationships, because I think my personal book, yes. Because I think that this book can help you bond with other people.
Yeah.
It can help you bond because you're immersing, two of you are sharing the same artwork together, but in order to complete the experience, you're providing the words for what it is. It's not just the people on the screen talking at you, and it's not just the author's words in a novel. You're providing the words. So you're building on each other's reading of the artwork. And then when you identify what's going on, the kind of moment, then you bring your personal life experience to understand more deeply what's going on and empathizing with the characters. And when you do that, you form this kind of connection with the other person because you're being vulnerable with them.
And it's very revealing.
It is. Yeah. And the artwork offers the opportunity for you to be vulnerable. And it's so you're not like just, hey, how about this story from my childhood? No, you don't just jump in with something. The artwork and the deeper understanding of the artwork is enhanced by having somebody share their personal connection to it, because it gives you a better sense of the meaning of the artwork. And therefore, it also helps you bond with that person and saves your relationship.
Yeah, just me. So you're writing this so I will finally find a woman who won't flip through the Louvre as though it is a Cosmo magazine.
I'm glad you
don't do that with me, please.
Kirk, I'm glad you brought up that there's nothing that intrigued her, because one of the things that I hold with the visual arts is oftentimes it's not your first impression of an artwork, your positive first impression, that's going to be the final say of what you get out of it.
Yeah.
In fact, I deliberately picked a painting that you might really skip if you personally, Kirk, might really skip if you saw it in the museum. And the challenge I have is that all these 50 artworks, they at first glance, they might not be something that you're particularly intrigued by, but there will be a way for you to get into it because they're all dealing with human life. And they're all dealing with a moment in human life, a moment that you can empathize with because to some degree you've had a similar kind of experience.
Yeah, and I do want to do a shout out. Thank you, Robert Nasser, for your contributions, your super chats. He says coffee table books as they might and ought to be.
Okay.
So that's great. So this is a coffee table, which I agree. Like, I think the purpose of a coffee table book is to bring people together, right? To like have something that when people are over, they'll look at it. So right now I have a big coffee table book, which will be replaced very soon. Of course, once I get your big old coffee table book, it's of old Hollywood movies, and particularly David O. Selznick, who I love, and his whole world. And it's just a big book with all these pictures, and it's quite cool, although nobody ever looks at it when they come over. So, but they don't get invited back. So look at someone's coffee table book, so this is I'm going to give you guys a tip as an old salesman. I've been doing this, in people's houses for years. If you go into a person's house and they've invited you, look at their stuff. They put it up there for a reason. They thought about it. If they're a thoughtful, interesting person, don't just like go straight to wherever and eat the dinner and get out of there. Like, don't go to their house. Like, if if I go to Luke's house, I'm going to look around, right? And I'm going to ask for the tour and be like, oh, that's cool. I like that painting. And, tell me about that. Because that's how you get to know somebody. It's just his castle, man.
And if you want to be able to hone your observation and relationship skills like Kirk is describing, the visual arts are a great way to start because they in order to get more, you got to look outwards. You got to look at the art and piece together what's going on. In this book, I'm not going to tell you what's going on first. No,
you got to do it yourself.
You to read the artwork, to figure out, to piece, to like rubberneck and pick up all to find out what actually happened in this moment. And so, yes, it's all about observation, inference, and coming to conclusions, forming a hypothesis, a scientific method applied to the visual arts. Absolutely.
So I'm going to read this, even though it's not a super chat. So please super chat and support ARCUK, who are helping us do this. But it's a good question. I think it's a good segue into looking at the painting. Gio asks, is it analysis of paintings or stories about paintings? And, so what do you think of that? Like, is it an analysis of the painting, or is it merely just a story about and I think maybe he even might refer to something like the story about the creation of the painting, not just.
And that's an important distinction to make, Kirk. This is not the story of the creation of the painting. It's not the story of the artist. This is like when you go to a movie and you sit back with your popcorn and you let the story sweep over you. The characters who are going through their conflicts, who are like have love interests or have battles or whatever it is. Your focus is on suspending disbelief and immersing yourself into the lives of these characters and caring about them. And that's not something we naturally do. when we go to an art museum. And the thing that was the main thing for me to figure out, in order to get more out of a visual arts, I got to do that. I got to have that movie-like approach. I got to suspend disbelief. I got to imagine that whatever those characters are doing, even though they're not moving, even though they're not speaking, I can still suspend disbelief. So yes, it's a story that is within the artwork. Now, the big difference I see with the visual arts and something that is continuous, like a novel or play or movie, is the visual arts. You have a frozen moment. You have one particular moment, and the story leads up to that moment. And what really counts, where the meaning comes in, is understanding what kind of moment are you seeing right now. Not what happens after the moment in the painting, but what's happening right now at this moment. Because all our lives, Kirk, are filled up with these moments. We could pause and say, what situation am I in right now? What am I going through right now? What am I experiencing right now? And that right now, that's what the visual arts have to offer. Yeah,
and what's fun, and maybe we can go into the painting that you brought with us. But for me, what's fun about this is that, when you pause your own life, there's a good chance that there's a lot of randomness to what's going on here, and that isn't accurate. But with a painting, an artist has chosen every detail and element and facial expression and crook of the finger and positioning of characters and elements, things in the actual painting that add up to something. And it's very purposeful, especially great art, I think, is very purposeful in my experience. And that is a very beneficial aspect to exploring this, is because it is a reflection. It was one way to think about it, as a reflection of our lives, or of real life, but it's, as developed and created by a master artist who's really
and that's one of the fun things about reading art, is when you start to have a theory about what's going on, an idea about, okay, this character is really happy because this happened, and then you start to go through all the details, even the minutest of details that you don't think are important, and are able to integrate those details as you're reading this artwork into your theory, into the broader idea. Then that's where the fun is. It's fun. It's rewarding. It's like it's seeing the integration of it all, and you're putting that integration together. A great author in a novel will give you a description of a character where all the pieces fit. And when you read an artwork, you have that, but you're the one who's kind of putting all those pieces and seeing the fit. And there's something even more rewarding about you being able to see all those visual details coalesce together into a whole.
Yeah, there's a lot. You do these salons, and there's always really interesting conversations, because some people will get dramatically different readings, and because I remember one where it's like a couple sitting at a bench when the guy was reading, and she was kind of sad. And, someone was like, oh, they're just tired after a long day. It's like, no, this is like the end of their relationship. This is horrible. They're in a sexless, loveless marriage. He just beat their dog. And that's so, now I'm exaggerating, but everybody was like, and then some people were like, no, they're just having a bad day, or she's just, he's just tired from work, it's so dramatically different. We were like fighting over it, in a fun way. It's like, what are you talking about? Look at his face. He's doing it. It's like, it was very fun. It's interesting.
Now, Kirk, I'm really glad you brought this up, because one thing that I'm hoping with this book is, in some ways, it's going to help you gain a more fruitful conversation with others, because
it's not arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary, and you are not as far off from each other as you think. Even when you're describing, some people saw that, it's just having a bad day, and then end of the relationship. There is some common observations, and there are some key questions that you can ask yourself and others to help you see what they are seeing more. So one thing that I know throughout my life that I've been frustrated by is, after movie arguments, you see a movie and then you here's my interpretation of the movie, and you take hold of it, and then somebody else has a different interpretation, and then you're kind of mining the movie to find the supporting evidence to help you. It's just like a political argument for a lot of people that have political arguments out there. And that's not the kind of discussion that I like with the visual arts. I like the kind of discussion where you see something, and then you want to explore more, and you want to see if it fits. So with one thing that I suggest, whenever you're looking at an artwork, end any kind of idea that you have about what's going on with a question mark. And what that does is it does two things. it makes you open to observing more yourself. And it also makes you open to listening to what others are observing. So I'll give this analogy. If you're picking up like a detective novel, and all the evidence is pointing to the butler who did it, and you come out and say the butler did it, and then you stop reading the novel because you're all the evidence that you need for the butler is right there, and then that's it. No, you don't do that. You keep reading a novel and seeing things unfold. And so adding a question mark to a conclusion that you might have initially when you're reading an artwork keeps the story going. Now, doesn't mean it's arbitrary, but have it as a question. It builds suspense and it builds eagerness to discover more.
Oh yeah, I love that. I say the same thing about reading literature and poetry, that we get stuck in this thing, and where we think that this is the answer, or even we read it from someone or got it from a genius, right? Some genius gave us like some definition or analysis, and then that becomes our analysis, and then we basically don't have the ability to even explore the artwork. And the fun of art is in the exploration. It's just the kind of looking around and asking questions and seeing new observations. And why don't we look at one to see what we've got with that?
I can't wait to show this to you.
Oh no, I'm kind of I'm always nervous on the first one because so why don't you say like what I'm supposed to do first? Like the first thing you do with
the first thing I recommend to anybody, and this is something, a very simple trick that you can use right now. Open up an art book, go into an art museum, go into a website with art. The first thing to immediately make that artwork something that you're going to be excited about reading. At first glance, give it your own title.
Okay.
At first glance, and it can be something very simple, like people and trees, but whatever it is, immediately provide words. Experiencing art is not about looking at art. Experiencing art is about providing the concepts to go with those concretes. With literature, you have the reverse. With literature, you have the concept, you have the words, and to complete the experience, you provide the visual images in your mind's eye. But with the visual arts, you don't have the words. Provide the words. And the first way to do that, easiest way, exciting way, is to give I'm building it up. I'm
I'm nervous.
All right, what's your title for this one? And
I always feel like I have the worst of these.
Well, Kirk.
I know. You're not supposed to say that. I know. You're not supposed to say that. Don't be scared. Caring. I'll just say caring. Like
wonderful, beautiful, and that term right there immediately implies some questions. Like Kirk, now my follow-up question is, what do you see that suggests caring?
Well, so this girl this girl is holding a bird of some sort. I don't know what kind of bird that is, but it's a bird. I can tell you that. I can tell you this.
Good. We don't have an ornithologist.
It's not
in
a
the
cat.
House. That's all right.
This is not a cat, but it is a bird of sorts. And it's interesting. The bird is looking up at its caretaker. It looks like a caretaker. It's holding it, or the person. The looks like a young woman, I assume. Although there's a little bit of manly. I don't know. I don't want to be rude, but a little mannish. Like maybe it's a man. I don't know. Although the hair making me think. I don't know. But okay, so I'm gonna say this youngish 20-year-old girl. Is that a shadow on her lip? So I don't want to be rude.
Hey, Kirk, you can't be rude to her. She's not going to turn at you and tell you, "Hey, enough. Shut up, voting." Yeah.
But yeah, so this young woman, because she's got a hairnet, I'll say, she is caring for this seagull or bird of some sort, and the bird is looking up at her. And in the background, there are two other birds flying. I don't know if it's the family of the bird, or something like that. And she's standing on the beach with the ocean. And then I assume that's an ocean, or maybe it's it's a lake because there's an island or some land behind her. By the way, I just want to say, Allison Beard, thank you for your super chat contribution. She says about the journey instead of the destination. And I think that's a big truth, right? It's about the journey and not the destination. And then Mary Lee.
Can I have both? Can I have both the journey and the destination?
It's about both. I agree. And then Mary Lee says, Luke totally changed my experience at art museums in a good way. So thank you, Mary Aline, for your
Well,
super
that was
chat.
in a good way. In Marilyn, yes. Appreciated,
In a
Marilyn.
good way, yeah. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. She has a dark shawl on of some sort, right? So it's probably, and she's wearing thick, baggy clothes. This is probably 1800s, maybe 1700s. I don't know the era exactly, but she seems like she's maybe a peasant of some sort. And
That's
it's
great.
cold.
Kirk, may I pause you one moment there? Because what I'd
Yes.
like to do is I'd like to kind of take you through what would be in the book and the kind of leading questions that you would you'd have. So the first step is like just describing what it is you're seeing, what's going on, and you've provided a lot of interesting content. But what I'm going to read now are the questions that are in the book for this particular painting, and it's a painting you might not really stop in front of. I bet most people in the audience right now, if they saw this, no. That doesn't look particularly interesting. Not heroic, not particularly dramatic. So what's the deal? Not particularly beautiful. So what's the deal with this? It's kind of gray. All right.
Now, for you listening, by the way, when Luke asks a question, why don't you try and answer? And if you add a super chat, I'll read it on the show. But go ahead, Luke.
Okay. So the first question for any artwork, and we've kind of been discussing this, is what is going on in this scene. And with the follow-up is, particular for this artwork, is did she bring the bird to the beach or did she find it there?
So I don't see anything on the bird's wings. I don't know if it's clipped or like sometimes I know they put those like bands on them to keep them from flying away. I think she found the bird there. That's because of that is my assumption. Unless I'm missing something else. But although I guess the other argument would be, how did she get the bird in her arms like that? And the bird's not trying to get away or something. It seems very calmed. So maybe she's used to the bird. So she might have brought it there. So I just basically said both answers.
And you know what? That's why you put a question mark with each statement so that you can keep looking and discover more and have more thoughts about it. Okay, here's another question. What did she come to the beach for? A swim, a vacation, relaxing with friends?
That's a good question. So by the way, in the comments, what do you guys think? Why did she come to the beach? I don't think she came for a swim. Although she has a cap on of some sort, but it seems really chilly for a swim because she's bundled up, right? And now I don't know what the swim attire was at this era, but I don't think this is it. I don't think you go with your full shawl and a tie, in a nice, or nice-ish skirt.
Is she on vacation?
So I don't know.
Or is she just out for a stroll?
I would say out for a stroll. I don't know what would indicate vacation.
Bikini.
That I can tell. What's that?
Bikini, sun.
Yeah, she was in a bikini. Yeah, I would be like,
maybe with a margarita. But she has none of those. And I'm going to keep going here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So Gio, you asked who is the painter. Just so you know, with Luke's method, you wait till later for that. So the first thing is you experience the painting, and then you ask. So don't worry about who the painter is, right?
It's kind of like with the movies. Yeah. Now they have the credits all at the end,
Yeah. You wait till later. That's what's important.
All right.
Anyway, so thank you for your questions, Gio. Keep them coming.
And here's another question. Okay. Let's immerse ourselves in the scene a little bit more.
Okay.
If you're to push play in this scene, imagine this is a frozen moment in a movie and you push play, what movement would you see?
So she's holding the bird like this. She's very straight. It looks like she's petting the bird.
Maybe she's petting. What movement besides her do you see?
Oh, the birds are flying toward her. Behind.
Maybe the birds are flying. What more?
The bird might be moving, like the bird in her arms might be moving in some kind of calming way. Maybe it's trying to get away. Maybe she is holding it. That could be possible. I can't tell. And the wind is blowing her. So the wind is, it's windy. So
so you got the wind blowing, you've got the movement, maybe of the birds, the flying of the birds in the background. I'm going to keep going. Here's another question. Where is her focus? Where are her thoughts? Are they with the bird?
So, no. I think her thoughts are somewhere else. And also, because Allison Beard gives such a good contribution, super chat, I just want to say maybe Allison says, maybe she came to release the bird who says she hasn't nursed the bird already? And this is the aftermath. And yeah, I agree that it may be that the bird is comfortable with her and she's bringing it there to release it. That's one thing I was thinking about.
That's an interesting theory.
Yeah. Now, I don't think, like you're saying, her mind is with the bird necessarily. I mean,
if it were,
she seems distracted. Like she would be looking down at it.
Yeah.
Like
that bird is looking up at her and say, hey, what's going on? And
yeah, exactly.
Like that. All right. Like I got one more question for you.
Okay, go ahead, please.
What sounds do you hear in the background?
Like the seagulls, the sounds of like a lake or an ocean, like the seagulls, do
you hear any people?
Ocean.
So here's one rule of thumb for me. If I don't see it, I don't hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it's possible there are someone she's looking at, but to me, it looks like she's looking in the way of, the mind's eye is in control, and she's it's a far away look. When you see that term in literature, this is what a far away look looks like.
Yeah.
Is she's looking far away. So
all right,
there's something on her mind.
One more question before I'll share with you my reading of the artwork. And the question is, speculate. What could she be thinking about if she has a faraway look looking off into the distance?
So the first thing that comes to my mind is possibly the, losing of a pet because she has to let the pet go. That's possible. Like maybe she did take care of this pet. She found it on the beach, brought it back to let it go. And now she's like, sad. And it seems like this is maybe even a little bit more melancholy than just a temporary pet. Like it's reminiscent of something else going on. I mean, she is in dark clothes. Maybe she's mourning something. And this is kind of, it could be that this is a ritual of some sort that I'm not aware of, where she's releasing this bird as kind of like a symbol. Because you see that a lot in Greek mythology. I know.
A symbol or something.
Yeah, a symbol of like a funeral. Like releasing doves at a wedding.
Yeah.
And there's ocean birds. I don't know a specific tradition, but that sounds like that might be a tradition of sorts.
Now, Kirk, if we were on a tour, what we might do is I might ask a few more leading questions and lead you kind of to some conclusions and maybe provide a little bit of background information that in the character or the time period that would help us identify who she is and what's going on. In lieu of that, in the book, what I have is kind of my take on it and kind of my answers to those questions. So if you'd like, I'll share my reading, and then I'll be curious to hear if what I have to say makes sense to you, which parts especially resonate. Was there anything particularly insightful? And I also have a couple of other questions that come up about how you might relate to this character. All right, here it is. A young woman stands in the breeze on a seashore. She holds a bird in her hands. Is this her pet bird, or did she find it on the beach? It looks like one of the seagulls flying behind her with its gray plumage and black-tipped wings. She might have found this bird as she was walking on the beach and seen it in some distress, picked it up to care for it. Its feathers are disheveled, its wings are spread awkwardly, and it looks up with a neck bent back. The bird isn't like a gentle little dove with wings tucked in, sitting calmly. I can imagine that it might be squirming, with wings sporadically flapping in agitation. The young woman holds it firmly, but delicately, her fingers precisely spread, almost caressing. Her attention, though, isn't on the bird, even though it seems to look up at her. Perhaps a few months before, she was looking down at the bird, petting and consoling it. But then she's looked up, her eyes lifted as a new thought crossed her mind. What could she be thinking now? Her expression is a little melancholy. Her dark eyes are slightly lowered, and her mouth is set tightly. She seems numb to the wind blowing in her face. It looks like she came to the beach by herself. Why did she come? It does not look like she's on vacation. Perhaps she is of this place. She knows it well, and she came here to be by herself, to take a solitary walk through the salt air and sound of the waves. I don't live too far from the sea myself, and I often go on walks on the beach to reflect on my life. Perhaps she's doing the same. The title of this painting is The Wounded Seagull. That doesn't tell us much more than we've already seen, but it does make me wonder if there's more than one hurt creature in this scene. Perhaps looking down at this wounded bird has prompted the thoughts she's now having. What places, Kirk and everybody out there, what places do you go to spend time with yourself and your thoughts? And there, when have you come across something that prompted even deeper self-reflection? The general example from movies and literature that most quickly comes to mind for me is the parent away from their own child who sees random children playing and can't help but be reminded of what is missing for them. I wonder what she might be thinking in her circumstance. I wonder if she sees herself in some way in the wounded seagull. I can imagine her looking down at the bird and saying, "You are hurt and you wish you could fly over the sea." Then she looks up, and as the sounds of the other gulls fades in the background, she says to herself, "I am wounded too."
Ooh. Wow. Yeah, I mean, the wounding part is, I think that's a great connection that I didn't have, right? Like I had something about the melancholy and looking off into the distance, but the idea of connecting and
you had
you
that.
know,
You were talking about the birds being.
I was on the right
something.
path. Yeah, I'm sure I would have gotten there if you would have guided me a little bit. But my point is that I think that's a great connection, and I think you asked the question like, where do I go for things like that, right? And I think it's a good question to ask. That you do in the book a lot, and you do in your work a lot with helping people connect it to personal events. I'll say for me, like I used to live in California. The beach was a good place for that. There is something magical about a beach. If you've ever been to a beach and you just sitting by yourself, I mean, it could be hypnotic to just hear the waves come in. Sometimes you could do it for hours without even thinking that you're there for hours, right? You almost lose a sense of your body. I like walks for that. Texas is the worst for that for me because it's so hot all the time. But in California, I did. By the way, Kathleen, thank you for your super chat. Superb, touching or TDO, the Daily Objective. Looking forward to the book. Good. And me too. So yeah, and Kathleen, where's your favorite spot to go enjoy some privacy and contemplate life? I think, yeah, daily walks are really, really nice. And sometimes they just hit you, right? And that's what might be happening here is like sometimes, especially this is the value of being alone, unhooked, right? That you can go out and if you're going for a walk or, sometimes just working out or whatever, and it just like hits you and you just kind of start thinking about things, right? And that may even be what's happening here. Like maybe she does this walk every day and, this something connecting to this wounded seagull made her think of something, whatever that thing is. We don't really know. There's not really any evidence of it that I can tell, but there's a wounding. And I like the wound thing. It's a powerful metaphor. We've all been wounded in some way, some more than others. And I think we can connect with that feeling of being wounded.
And it's so valuable to think of, for me, to think that there are moments like that. And it makes me want to have a moment like this where I need to plan to have time where I can do some introspection. Maybe I'm going to go to a place where my mind is going to be freed so that everything I look at is going to be reminiscent of something that's going on within me to help me understand myself more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I have to say, just because I'm rereading this book, the Aeneid.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the Aeneid?
I have not read the Aeneid.
Interesting book, but it made me think of literally I'm starting book 4 and it's about Dido and Aeneas. And you know about Dido and her story a little bit.
Queen of Carthage,
but thrown aside by Aeneas after they were quote unquote married or whatever. But here's the opening.
Man.
Here's the opening line of book 4, right? It's all foreshadowing. The queen, for her part, all that evening ached with longing that her heart's blood fed, a wound or inward fire eating her away. And the whole thing about her story.
Pause, Kirk, pause. Just let that sink in. Because what you just described was kind of a bit of a narrative of what is happening to her.
What
a beautiful pairing.
Yeah, I mean, it just struck my mind, and I had the book here because we're reading it. But yeah, like the term most used or often used for Dido in the Aeneid is wounded, right? She's been wounded by this love for Aeneas, and it's a tragic story. I really recommend reading the Aeneid. And I have a painting that I love that I found at the Getty of Aeneas and his entourage approaching Dido, and it's not her wounded, although I do think, there's something about, maybe that's a relation to this painting. This painting, she's very covered up, as Dido has her breasts uncovered, and there's a kind of vulnerability that I think is part of that point of that. And this woman is, of course, covered, but I think there's a vulnerability in her that's, the relation to this bird, right? Yeah. She's like the bird in that sense, and she's wounded. I think that's a great connection, and it's a great, when you experience artwork, part of what it does is I think it expands your own ability to experience life, right? When you have these experiences yourself, when you're wounded, when, like you can kind of feel on a grander scale than you would.
And Kirk, if we're not here on a podcast, but having a glass of wine with each other, we could talk even more personally about the kinds of moments that we associate with this artwork.
You're trying to fill the spot of wife for me or something now? Glass of wine and hanging out and trying to fix my relationship. Here's how I'm going to fix your relationships, Kirk. Yeah. So, I think it's, it's a great, if you can't connect with like a person, a friend, and I'm kidding, of course, with friends, this is a great way to get to know friends. This is a great way. Deep relationships are not easy, and it's hard to even come up with the questions to ask somebody. Like I saw this in not even with the friend thing. I saw a New York Times article years ago that was like 40 questions to ask while looking into someone's eyes that you're on a date with to make them fall in love with you. And so the exercise, although it's really weird, like how do you find someone like this? Like, hey girl, can I ask you 40 questions? And at the bar and maybe you'll fall in love with me. But the idea is that you look at each other's eyes, the exercise, and you ask all these deep questions, you answer them, of course. And that, by doing that, it draws the connection. Yeah. And that's what I think this book makes it easier, because again, you can be focusing on the artwork as a kind of third party objective, to kind of discuss, and then you can bring it inward and, make reflections about your own self. That's why I'm very excited. And by the way, Gene Walters. So thank you for all the super chats, guys. Mary Aline, Gene Walters says ARC UK art show every week, please. Can't wait to get the book. Good. So great. Get the book. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be a great piece, and it'll be a good piece to indicate whether someone's actually your friend or not, because if they're not, they won't even look at it.
No. That's the opposite. It's the opposite, right. Because this is an artwork that I hope that people kind of looked at and said, why are we doing this one? And then maybe you kind of get a sense, oh, I see. I hope you had that experience. I just want to, I think it was Gio who was asking for the artist name. Now,
Gio,
I want to bring that back up here and then give you two pieces of information. If you like this artwork, when there's, if I like a novel, I want to find out who the author is and it's at that moment, if I want to go out and find more. This is a painting that's in St. Louis at the St. Louis Art Museum. So if you're in that area, you'll be able to find it there. And the artist name is Jules Breton. Jules Breton, Breton. So, you like this one. Yeah, go ahead.
I just realized I don't think they can see this painting on YouTube. Unfortunately. So
is that right?
Yeah. So, so let's put that. Oh, they could see it. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
Good.
Okay. So because I can't see it on mine. And I have mine up. So, yeah, we'll put in the show notes the link to the painting. So if you want to go see it for yourself, explore it. And, I tried to describe it in some detail. So we've done this as an audio show where we had a podcast where we just described the art. Hopefully I did enough to help you get an idea. But yeah, definitely go look at this painting for yourself. put it on the big screen for a few minutes, sit with it, ask the questions for yourself. Do you agree? Do you disagree? That's part of it. And get a friend and check it out with a friend and, experience this artwork and then get the book when it comes out. When is it coming out?
Yeah. So may I provide information on that?
Yes.
So there's a Kickstarter going on right now. It just started today. And if you just go to kickstarter.com and search for Stories in Paint, Luke Travers, you'll come across it, and you can pre-order the book. And the book, the hardcover, is going to be promised for February, but you'll get the ebook in December.
Okay.
So you'll get the ebook in December, and then you can buy extra books to give as gifts, and it'll be a beautiful thing. There's also
it's a good Christmas gift.
Yeah, there's a little community if you're interested in following along the progress of the book and sharing art. If you're on Facebook, there's the Stories in Paint Facebook group. So just type in search for Stories in Paint with Luke Travers, and you can become a part of the Facebook group in that community. So
now,
I hope
will it be available on Amazon eventually?
Oh, sure,
okay.
At some point. But I want to encourage people to do to join me in the Kickstarter, the crowdfunding, because there'll be all kinds of perks that go along with that. You'll be able to be in the book, name printed in the book as a backer if you purchase the hardcover book, pre-order it. So
can you give a couple price points just so we have an idea?
Yeah, so $80 plus shipping for the hardcover book, which includes the ebook $30. Then it gets reduced. They're gift packages after that you can take a look at.
Yeah, I just want to stress in terms of the money. So if $80 seems expensive for a book, I just want you to understand that you're getting 50 paintings. And these paintings, you could, like this painting back here that I got is it's a small one. It's probably the same size that yours would be. That's like $120 right there. And that's a reproduction. And that's one thing, like the value of that, of that's really valuable to have that amount of work that you get. And this is a thick, hefty thing. That's very good. 50 different artworks.
Now, I'm not going to promise there are $120 reproductions, but we're going for quality with this. We're definitely going for high quality. This is something that we want you to have out, be proud to display out, so that when friends come over, that they will flip through it and they will be like Kirk and attentive to what's in your house and what you care about.
Yeah. Well, I would hope so. I give people a benefit of the doubt for now because I don't have my house decorated yet fully. I just have. But if someone has a coffee table, they should explore a little bit. But Luke, thank you so much. We'll put hopefully we can put links to the Kickstarter, at least the book itself. I think it's a great work and it's a great way to start exploring the world of art if you haven't already, and if you have, it's going to be a good aid. And like I said, I might try to hop on a plane and go travel to one of these museums.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirk, thank you very much. And thanks for sharing that artwork with me.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody out there. It was fun to help you, Luke. To enjoy a little bit of art with you.
Yeah. And thank you all for the super chats and all the questions. That was a lot of fun. So thanks. Bye, everybody.